Although I've only been here on this earth for 33 years, I can easily say that I've never met anyone like Rob. To see you all here, many of you wearing Rob's favorite color, orange, it is warming my heart. He'd be so honored to call you all his family.
I'm helping you, Wade.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you are,
He brings me everything I eat.
So that is called an enabler over there. So when you get
And since we've been together, we both just kept gaining. Because outside of each other, food is all we both have. I guess I'm eating the wrong things.
You think it's funny?
Anyone in his life love him enough to be able to help him in a sustained manner.
Well, yeah, I sit in the bed and put the skillet on the side and cook.
That sounds dangerous.
My dad was the one on the phone talking to her. But when I got on the other phone, she was telling my dad that the reason she left was because of me.
What is the problem that you want to address? Because you're not giving me the impression you're very interested in losing weight.
Cynthia Wells. When the cameras started rolling for Cynthia Wells' episode on My 600 Pound Life, her loneliness was palpable. But as a single mum of 5 children, she also had a ton of responsibility, something that was becoming more difficult because of her weight.
I like it. I do a lot of different dances. It's fun. I'm gonna be able to come to the festival.
Probably not this year, because you know I can't do all that walking. But I'm gonna try to watch you dance today. I want to be out there with my kids. That's what a parent is supposed to do. Too much walking. I can't do it. She's a dancer. She performs, and I can't make it to her performances. Never seen her practice before. It's the first time. She's been dancing since she's in kindergarten.
At 610 pounds, Wells was becoming less motivated to leave the house and more exhausted when she had to move. When it came to following Dr. Now's program, however, Wells wasn't willing to be compliant for very long. She managed to earn herself the reputation of being one of the more bald-headed stars of My 600 Pound Life during her tenure on the show.
I noticed you gained 4 pounds.
Sick the last couple of weeks.
What kind of sickness?
Respiratory.
Yeah, having an upper respiratory infection is not an indication of falling off your diet. We got a real serious problem with you.
Gained 4 pounds. And that was a major issue for him.
So what do you say the next steps are?
I have to lose 30 more pounds. I don't have an answer, because I'm trying to get my ass down here. All he cares about is numbers.
We'll get back on track.
And I'm struggling to pay to get down to Texas. And if this is what it's gonna turn me into, then I don't want to do it.
Cynthia.
We don't have to do this no more. Nobody has to sacrifice anymore.
And I'm
saying,
saying,
you know what? We don't have to do this no more.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
At one point calling Dr. Now's program bull and returning home to Oklahoma City. By the end of her episode, Wells' weight loss had stalled and she was deep in denial about her emotional eating habits. Fortunately, things were better in her follow-up episode, as Wells seemed much happier. She continued to lose weight and was down to 361 pounds, a big improvement. Lee Sutton. Occasionally, family members or romantic partners who weigh 600 pounds or more appear together on the My 600 Pound Life, which was the case for Lee Sutton and Renna Kisser. The couple, who met and fell in love at a bariatric rehabilitation facility, were eating themselves into a dangerous situation when their episode began.
And each day, our health is only getting worse.
Lee and Renee?
Hello.
Just a little.
Yeah, could be better. I gotta start making better food choices.
Hello.
Hello, Dr. Now.
How y'all doing?
Surviving.
When you left the hospital, you were down to 546. You just had your bypass about 2 months ago, so you lost only 9 pounds since then. She hasn't even had her bypass yet. Renee has lost almost 50 pounds at the same time. What in the world is going on with you?
Although they were both able to eventually lose weight and get weight loss surgery, it became evident fairly early on that Sutton had anger management issues.
Then
You're
we're not
asking
talking
me
about
questions that I don't understand no more than you understand. Don't eat a third what I ate
just
before I
answer
had
the
that
question.
surgery.
You're choosing to overeat, and you think it's okay?
No, I don't think it's okay at all. Problem is I'm holding a lot of fluid. I can't hardly pee.
Really?
I mean, I don't know.
You're playing this kind of game, and you think that's okay? You play your cards right until you got the surgery. You have been given a tool to help you change your life. So you have to deal with what is driving you to eat.
I'm done with this conversation. Go to her.
No, we're gonna finish with you.
No, we're not finishing with me. You're making me mad.
Okay.
Let go of me, Renee.
All right, this is completely unacceptable.
That resulted in him being hurtful towards his partner, both verbally and physically. It got so bad that Dr. Now sent him to see a therapist so he could control himself better. But Sutton was still being cruel to Kisser in their follow-up episode, no matter how hard Kisser tried to be kind and to de-escalate his behavior when his temper flared up. The story of Sutton's awful behavior continued after their episodes concluded. Sutton also reportedly cheated on Kisser with a married woman, and Kisser ended the relationship, according to now deleted social media posts. But it appears as though she took him back in the end. Lisa Eberson. Lisa Eberson was just 51, but 637 pounds overweight. She was living a desolate life in Fairbury. She had been bedbound for 3 years by the time this team got to her and hooked up to an oxygen tank to help her sleep. Her boyfriend Randy was the person who took care of her every need, and it became quite clear to us that she was not living anymore, but more like living dead. Lisa's childhood was one of overindulgence as she was born into a family which liked to celebrate each moment of life by overindulging in food. But it wasn't always fun and games under the roof of her family home, which resounded quite frequently with the drunken rages of her father, who was an alcoholic. After many years of abuse, both emotional and physical, Lisa experienced child abandonment when her father upped and left, leaving his little children to the tender mercies of a single mother, who had to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. These kids then grew up without the loving care of even one of their parents. It was an extremely lonely and insecure existence, and the only solace these kids could find was in food. Lisa experienced the worst physical abuse by 2 men while visiting a friend, and the only way she coped with it was by not speaking about it to anyone and just taking refuge in a plate piled up with hot, delicious food. This was the watershed moment in her life, which turned her friendship with food into an addiction, and it was soon followed by partying and drinking heavily. She had her first child at the young age of 16, and living under her mum's roof was no more a joyride. She started chasing abusive relationships in a deadly pattern set for her. Her first marriage was to a convicted felon, and it did not turn out well for her or her children. What progressed was a series of dysfunctional relationships, which would send her spiraling down a hole she eventually found it hard to crawl out of. Her eventual falling out with her live-in boyfriend Randy, after investing 10 years of her life into him, combined with her severe health problems, made her realize that she needed help to survive. She sought help from Dr. Now Zaradan.
I like to snack a lot and eat a lot.
Well, you're not the person you go to pantry and get your snack. Who's that?
Well, we
Somebody that's interested to keep you in the bed?
no.
Who cooks the food?
Randy and I cook it together.
How are you going to cook in the bed? Save your life.
I'm gonna follow whatever you tell me to do, and he's gonna make sure of it.
Put the camera so we can see your legs. Have some better idea what's going on.
Oh, every day.
So what is the plan for you to get out of the bed?
Well, I'm hoping to. I'm gonna have to stay on a strict diet and stop eating food I'm not supposed to eat.
And was able to lose 83 pounds, earning her his approval for weight loss surgery. Robert Bushell. Robert Bushell's situation on his episode of My 600-Pound Life was dire from the outset. It didn't take long for Dr. Now to discover that he not only weighed nearly 850 pounds, but that he also had an addiction to painkillers like Dilaudid. Pretty serious stuff.
Hey, Dr. Now.
Hey, Robert. How you feeling?
Not feeling great. You know, my skin underneath is hurting.
You've been here too long and you aren't doing what you need. And that has to change. If you continue to refuse to do what you need, your situation is going to start to get worse again, Robert.
Well, only when somebody followed me with a wheelchair.
But you were walking.
Yes, but I was never getting up freely on my own.
But after a rocky start, Bushell was able to finally get some control over his compulsive overeating habits. The Forked River, New Jersey resident had a lot of love on his side, including that of his mother and his fiancée Catherine. With that support and a whole lot of work, Bushell managed to lose a significant amount of weight under Dr. Now's watchful care, almost 350 pounds.
All right, I gotta sit.
Good job. Walk to your bed.
All right, give me a sec. I was really trying to push the walk.
If you include the surgical removal of a lymphedema mass. That's impressive. Unfortunately, the removal of the mass rendered Bushell depressed and longing for painkillers again. He even tore his stitches, hoping to get more of them. Before the episode ended, Bushell passed away from a heart attack in November 2017. Dr. Now was not shy about expressing its frustration at the medical system for its complicity in Bushell's addiction, which ultimately took his life. He also hailed him for being a fighter. Angela Gutierrez. When viewers first met Angela Gutierrez in her episode on My 600-Pound Life, it was readily apparent that she'd been through a lot. Having lost custody of her children due to child endangerment and attempting to take her own life, Gutierrez lost herself down the rabbit hole of compulsive eating. By the time she made the journey to Dr. Now with her ex-boyfriend, she weighed in at 608 pounds. That's in spite of the fact she'd had weight loss surgery before, a rarity on the show. But when Dr. Now charged her to lose weight by following his diet plan, Gutierrez faltered, unable to comply with his demands. She started missing appointments, eventually dropped out of the program altogether and returned to her home in Ohio. But she still had one more check-in with Dr. Now, which she did via video chat.
Hi, Dr. Now.
Hey, Angela. How you doing?
I'm good.
Missed your appointment again, saying you were sick, but turned out you weren't.
I don't know why it took so long. It seemed like something was happening every other week.
What's the reason? You're still not coming down to Houston to see me for your follow-up appointment.
In it, she told him that she had lost 120 pounds, to which he responded that she's delusional. That's never a good sign.
So when I come in a week and you see that I have lost 120 pounds, then you'll see that I am serious and I have been serious.
So you're saying you lost another 50 pounds since then?
Yes, sir.
And lying to me about your weight, is that going to get me to tell you what you want? Angela, you're more delusional than I thought. If you still think you can manipulate, you want to do this and save your life, come back down here and find a way to get through to you and break through all your lies and delusion. Because I'm done playing your game.
People don't come because they haven't lost their weight. And he said, and you're no different than others. But I absolutely am different from others.
David Nelson. David Nelson was just 30 years old and lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Though his family had no idea how much he weighed, they had no illusion since they knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that he was morbidly obese. Watching a 30-year-old young man become dependent on oxygen cylinders and a miasma of all sorts of medications so early on in life due to an innocent and harmless thing like food was a wake-up call for many of us. It filled our hearts with a lot of concern as well as annoyance about why a young man would choose to give up on life when he had so much to live for. David had reached this disappointing turn in his life due to a whole series of events, and there was an entire story behind the behaviors that had taken over his life. David had been pushed towards formulating a harmful relationship with food, which had meant to provide him with the nutrients necessary for his survival and body repair, but he had started using it in amounts too large for his body to cope with. His food dependency had come about as a result of missing out on the love each child craves from the adults in his life. He was born to a 13-year-old coke addict and was immediately moved to foster care. What followed was a series of disastrous stays under the roof of various sets of foster parents who were only concerned with getting the next paycheck for all of their efforts, which were practically none. Reeling from the emotional abuse and unavailability of the adults detailed with his care, James had started looking for comfort from the next meal, which was not always available.
The back already, it makes it impossible to move, being this big.
In my mind, helping a child become healthy is loving them.
I went right into foster care. I bounced around to different foster care houses while I was young.
So he developed a dependency on food as well as an insecurity about its provision due to the cruelty of his first foster parents. At the tender age of 3, he was put into the care of the Nelson family, which adopted him by the time he turned 6. But his stay under their roof was one filled with fear and apprehension, as both his foster parents proceeded to abuse him to their heart's content. His doses of physical abuse ranged from a belt beating by his foster father or a punch fest by his foster mother, indulging herself by breaking his nose in the process. As the abuse got worse, David tried to shield himself from the emotional pain of it by indulging in as much food as possible. By the time he became a teenager, his weight had gone up to 250 pounds and he had developed addictive behaviors, ranging from smoking weed to indulging in alcohol. He and his brothers were teenagers when they were kicked out by their adoptive parents, and James ended up back in foster care, where he took his aggression and anger at the world out on food, as well as his carers, and gained another 100 pounds within 1 year. Around this point, he met Robin at a foster appreciation picnic thrown by the local youth program in Idaho.
That's a lot. That puts a lot of pressure on me, and it scares me that be a healthier person. Picking the rest of this up.
Okay, thank you.
You all right?
Yeah, just tired.
Good about him, and I was attracted to his goodness despite the fact that the world had.
Impressed with his personable attitude and the goodness which shone in his smile as well as the way he carried himself, Robin became an instant fan. She eventually called Health and Welfare and requested them to send David to live with her family. Robin was the best thing to ever happen to David in his short life, and she helped him turn his life around, pushing him in the direction of weight loss. Her gentle needling made him get up and go to the gym, when all he wanted to do was be a couch potato and eat to his heart's content. With her gentle guidance, he was able to bring his weight down from 350 to 280 in a few short months. David's first brush with death came as a result of a severe cellulitis infection developing in his stomach, and he was rushed to the ER in pretty bad shape. A long stint in hospital and physiotherapy, combined with large doses of antibiotics, eventually saved his life. But this stint in hospital made him realize what he was doing to his own body, and eventually reached out to Robin with the decision that he wanted to turn his life around and make the weight go away. Accompanied by Robin, David ended up at Dr. Zaradan's clinic, where the scales showed him at 763 pounds.
What seems to be issue with your eating habit?
It's probably not the best.
Well, you have been, but your weight is so out of control.
Grew up in foster care and whatnot, and so
psychotherapy is going to be something that, okay. Who else live with you?
I live with my mom right now. It's pretty tight in the morning, and then basically watch TV or eat and
doing nothing.
Yes, sir.
All right, David, if you right now close your eyes and...
Now I do not. I was driving truck cross country, and then I got a cellulitis infection in my legs. Just,
Well, when you're 700 pounds, you're going to have a lot of risk factor. And
With Robin's help, he was able to shed 68 pounds and got approved for weight loss surgery. He suffered a setback by gaining back some weight and was disapproved for surgery. Not willing to give up so easily, David lost another 98 pounds this time and was approved for surgery, giving him another chance at a new life. Destiny Lachey. Destiny Lachey was just 27 years old, but she was carrying the weight of the world at 600 plus pounds. She was living in Pineville, Los Angeles, and her life was anything but rainbows and happiness. She was confined to her own house and barely got by on her own. Her sister, Nuna, visited her daily on the clock, just to make sure that she was not lying on the floor and unable to get up. Destiny had started her life with the odds stacked against her right from the beginning. She'd been born to a 16-year-old immature mother of white parents who were extremely biased to her pursuit of a biracial relationship with Destiny's father. Her mum was disowned by a Caucasian family and moved in with her father, continuing to have 2 sons by him. Destiny and her siblings, along with her mum, were abandoned by her father very early on, and her teenage mother had a hard time finding and keeping work to keep her 3 children fed. Eventually, social services got involved and took the kids away and put them in foster care. It turned out that foster care was just a continuation of the rejection Destiny had experienced, making for some unpleasant memories growing up. As she grew up in foster care, the comforting visits of her biological mother ceased when she was put away in jail due to shoplifting, and by the time Destiny was 15 years old, her weight had reached 350 pounds. As soon as she was released from jail, her mum remarried and had 2 children, Wayne and Nunia, from her new husband disappearing from Destiny's life. Coming out as gay cost Destiny her entire family, including her mum, and she understood what it meant to be isolated for the first time in her life. By the time she turned 22, she had converted fully to a woman and renamed herself Destiny. It was her brother Anthony's death which stayed like the ultimate weight on her, and her constant self-blame for his passing was a cause of continuous distress to her. Though her family eventually came around to supporting her in her new lifestyle, a lifetime of rejection and sad memories could not be shed in a New York minute.
So you are 668 pounds. So I take it you have been trying to lose. So do you want to lose weight? What is the plan?
I think I have a lot of emotional eating problems.
Such as what?
Being picked on a lot and just growing up, just struggling and a lot of weight.
Okay, I understand all that, but how does any of that just...
I don't know. I think it's a lot of to do with my emotions and stuff.
Okay, but in a therapy, you try to deal with that.
No, sir.
So you have really not here because you want to turn your life around and lose weight to have the life you want.
Yes, sir.
So Destiny was actually the first transgender woman to appear on the show, and in the course of her recovery under Dr. Nowzaradan's supervision, she was able to lose 500 pounds in total, becoming a social media sensation. Sadly, she passed away due to unknown reasons quite soon, but the memories of her struggles with life are still fresh in our minds, even to this day. That's all we have for you folks. Join us next time. Stephen Asante. Anyone who's seen my £600 live double episode and follow-up episodes featuring Stephen Asante and his brother Justin can attest that he's quite possibly the most controversial star the show has ever seen. Namely, Asante came off as manipulative because of the way that he treated both his family and the medical staff that was trying to help him. For one, Asante constantly manipulated his father into getting whatever he wanted, such as unhealthy foods, and bullied his brother repeatedly.
See 10 piles of empty pizza boxes in here. Hamburgers about the size of a $50 in a pea on a plate, and that's 300 calories right there. I'm just telling him. He used to threaten me and say, look, if I don't eat, I'm going to call the police on you.
He even went so far as to steal Justin's painkillers after he had weight loss surgery to fuel his own addiction.
Steve?
Hi.
I'm Dr. Nowzaradan. Nice to meet you. You doing okay?
Yeah.
So he's either in a lot of pain right now, or we are dealing with a very addictive and pathological personality here.
Additionally, he threw a jar of urine on the floor of the hospital, leaving it for a nurse to clean up.
I'm on the bedpan for a half an hour. I got piss all over my bed. Get the out of here.
Asante even caused Dr. Now to lose it, as he threatened to drop him off at a homeless shelter if he didn't stop his manipulative and erratic behavior. Asante seems to have calmed down since then, likely due to the fact that he got married, but it's hard to forget just how horrible he once was. Sean Milliken. Sean Milliken seemed like he was moving in the right direction after a rocky start to his weight loss journey. After initially weighing in at nearly 900 pounds and being mostly immobile, Milliken was finally able to turn things around and get weight loss surgery.
Every day I wake up, I have to face the reality of what my life has become. Scooch to the edge of my bed, go to the bathroom, and see if my mom's awake.
Help her clean up and do laundry and cook some meals and help give Sean a bath.
When you're very, very fat, your body goes this way, but the fat goes another.
So every day we have to take care of them, and it is a painful process. I miss being able to get up, move, go places. It's been 8 years since I went out in public.
This scale goes only to 800 pounds. You may be the heaviest person alive right now. This is not a good place to be.
That, in turn, helped him drop hundreds of pounds and regain his ability to walk, according to his follow-up episode of My £600 Life, Where Are They Now? It was evident that he was putting in the work. But in 2018, tragedy struck, and Milliken's mother passed away from renal failure, according to a follow-up video released by TLC. Understandably, he was devastated, as he and his mother were extremely close. Additionally, since she was his supporter, he had moved out of his Houston apartment. He was clearly thrust into a very difficult situation in more ways than one. In another sorrowful turn of events, Milliken himself passed away in the hospital from complications from an infection in February of 2019. He was having problems with his breathing, his father wrote on Facebook. They were able to resuscitate him, and a short time later, his heart stopped. He was only 29 years old. That's all for this video, folks. See you another time.